Welcome. This is Linda with Icky Chic Designs. I'm excited about this piece. I'm just in love with it. Everything came together so much better than even I envisioned in the beginning. And of course, like I've said before, I have some Bohemian blood in me. I just know I do because it's what I keep going back to. The style, the color, the multiple layers, the texture, the more is more philosophy, and it just it's just beautiful to me. It just expresses my love for textiles in such a way that it feels like I can be a free spirit and I can do what I want. And isn't that what we want to do with our scraps anyway? Don't we just want to be free spirits and make something beautiful out of them? We feel so good about rescuing these little pieces of nothingness that normally people would throw in the trash. As you can see, the background here is finished. All I did was I put straight stitches in it. I put some horizontal, I put some vertical. They're just large straight stitches because, as I said, I wanted this piece to be a background. I used thread that blended well so that it didn't become a focal point, but yet you can see it, and so you can love just the texture of the stitching in this piece. There's so many different elements in here. I counted the elements in the background, and there were 22 different pieces that I put on this small collage here. This is about probably a 7x9, something like that. And it's just layering in, and grabbing out of my scrap fabrics, grabbing out of my scrap threads, and putting those together. Now my centerpiece, I wanted to use one of my moonflowers or medallions, whatever you want to call them. I have a video on how to make moonflowers, and that's basically how this one was made. This is a medallion that I made a collage similar to the background piece, but then I ended up cutting it into circles, and so that turns out pretty, but this one was too small. This is the moonflower size. As you can see, it's the size of the piece in the background, and I haven't completed this one. It's just pinned together, but this is the freestyle that I make the moonflower medallions out of, and I end up using them in all kinds of things. And I just think what you can end up with is just endless because you're just using bits and pieces of scraps. Every one is unique and one of a kind. And so that's what I put in the background. Now, I use scraps in the moonflower I put in the background, and a lot of them were in the color tones of the background that I made here, so it played really well together. Then I pulled a piece of, let me see if I can find a piece of this yarn and thread rope that I make from time to time with leftover bits of yarn and thread. And I had one that was also just a little piece. Was just long enough to circle, tied off both ends, and couched sewn that to the circle itself. But when you have bits and pieces of, yarn and threads that, what am I going to do if it's not long enough for this or not long enough for that? Well, it's long enough to put something together. For instance, this was probably only about that long to start with. It was just long enough, well, maybe a little longer, long enough to go around the circle. But it was the perfect piece for this, circling this medallion. Like I said, the medallion was quite busy in itself, and it was finished as is. But the boho style is just, you layer things up, and then you add some more, and then you add some more, and it's colorful, and it's multi-layered, and it's multi-textural, and multi-patterned, and multicolored, and just multi. And the more you can do that, and the more you can do that comfortably, the more your pieces will look and lend themselves to the very colorful boho style. Now, there is a boho style that is very minimalistic in color and so forth, but I like the glitzy, splashy one. Reminds me of if I were to enter a gypsy caravan. When I open the door, it would look like this. It would just be a color display everywhere. But back to the circle, I put the circle on there, and then I added this rope. Then I've put some of this eyelash lace, and not lace, yarn. Just, this is what it looks like. I put some of that on there. Again, the color played perfectly well with this. And it allowed me to take a couple of old jewelry pieces and incorporate those. And with the feather piece back here, it's quite a vintage piece, and it has a little places where it's the gold overlay has been nicked off of it, so it looks aged. This is a newer piece. Actually, it's an earring, and I took it apart and I used it. But the gold played well with the colors too. And just old jewelry. I have a box of old jewelry that I like to incorporate in some pieces, especially if I consider it an art piece. Now, in my title of my video, I talk about turning fabric scraps into accidental art. When I first started the background, I didn't have art in mind. But as I began to layer more and more, and I began to get the threads on there, and I'm thinking, yes, this is looking artsy to me. And then I got the stitching done, and I loved it. And I thought from the beginning I wanted to put the medallion on there. So when I auditioned it on there, I said, this is going to be a piece of boho art. And so it just accidentally turns into art. I have so many pieces that I've worked with my scraps that just accidentally turn into art. And I don't necessarily, I think if I started out with my mindset saying, okay, I'm going to make art, I wouldn't nearly end up with the free-spirited pieces that I do. I don't put myself under that pressure to force myself to make a piece of art. I just play with the fabrics. I just play with the scraps and the textile things, and just let it happen. Those elements, when you play with them a lot, you learn to hear them. They talk to you, and they say, yes, I like being here. No, I don't like being there. Move me over here. Wrong color. I don't play good with this color. Give me another color. And it begins to talk to you, and you begin to hear it, and things come together better. And when you first start out, it's hard to get a combination together that really you like or will lend itself to an artsy feel. But the more you do it, the better and better and easier it gets. So basically, when I put the eyelash thread there, I knew I was going to put this on top of it. And so that's what I did. And so it is a done piece. It will frame out beautifully. I have two sizes of frames here. Now, I put this on a burlap background to photograph it, and I laid this on it. Isn't that pretty? That's a perfect color mat for this piece. But the burlap, I could have taken this piece and framed it like that and let the burlap show through in the back, that would have just added another dimension altogether. This piece also, this is in a horizontal format, but it could very easily go in a vertical format just as well and look just as pretty like that. This one has a little bigger opening. It's, you know, I wouldn't frame it in this one, but still you can see that if you wanted to put another layer of fabric behind it, then you would be able to get more fabric play out of that piece if you were to frame it that way. Okay. So when you go to frame your art pieces, you don't have to be jailed into just this one layout. You can do whatever you want to on it. Lay it in like that. Let some kind of fabric play through in the background like that. It'd just be very nice. If you have a framer that you use, for instance, a lot of my stuff I take to Hobby Lobby, and they do a lot of custom framing for me. And the person who cuts mats and does all that for me, he always comes out and talks to me, and we kind of decide how we want to do it together. He helps me out, and we play with some of the wonky doodle stuff. He's just good like that. And so if you have a framer or a place you take your framing, get their opinion. Ask them what they think. You know, they are people who appreciate art, and they work with it all kinds every day, and they know what works together. And they have given me some good suggestions. I do have, you know, ideas of my own when I go there, but sometimes they make my ideas better, and I really appreciate that. So you are an artist if you want to be an artist. Just play with your fabric scraps. Don't go buy new stuff. Don't have a definite piece of art in mind when you start. Just start collaging your scraps. When you think you're done, if you want to be a boho, then put a little more on. Remember, more and more and more. That's how we get this bohemian look. Okay? All right, I hope you enjoyed this little series on scrapping like a bohemian, because it's fun, and you're going to get addicted to it, I promise. All right, you keep scrap happy. Till next time, this is Lynda.